Hey everybody, just a quick update here. I've been playing around with this Pokemon API, and for the first time I have prompted inputs working. So I have this little Python script here, and I ask, please type in the name of the Pokemon you're trying to catch. Let's go with Pikachu. Pikachu. Enter. Hey, look at that. It's all of Pikachu's information from the API, and I've run this through a Jinja 2 template to make nice pretty output. So there's a lot of stuff here. Let me move to the top. And what we get is, the URL that was used. The name is Pikachu. Its ID is 25. It's a Pikachu. It's an electric type. It's 4 tall, 60 weight, 112 base XP. It's a default Pokemon. It's got these base stats. It has the form of a Pikachu. It has static abilities and lightning rod abilities. It appears in these following Pokemon games. It has these moves: Mega Punch, Payday, Thunder Punch. You get the idea. Now let's try another one. So let me just up arrow here. And let's do a Charizard. Bang, there they go. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on this and do some more fun stuff. My next step is probably to turn this into an HTML page and also maybe to save this as a raw text file. Much more to come. Thanks a lot. Take it easy. Hi, I hope everyone's doing well tonight. What I thought I would share with you, if you're a parent with children who you would like to help them get interested in programming or learning Python or how to interact with the internet, or if you're an educator or a beginner or someone who's starting out with Python, I've done some pretty neat things here with a free and open RESTful API. And as you may have guessed, it is Pokemon related. So if you go into the internet and go to Google and Google Pokemon API, you get an early hit here, and it's literally called PokeAPI, or the PokeAPI. And you can try it right in the browser here. So they have the Pokemon Ditto and the information about the Pokemon back here in structured JavaScript object notation, or JSON. So what we can do with this JSON, well, we can do quite a bit of things with it programmatically. Now I'm going to close down the PokeAPI browser here. What you see here in the background is my GitHub repository, which you can find easily in the comments of this description of this video. But it's called Python Postman Pokemon. And we're going to program with Python and Postman against Pokemon. So there's some folders in here, and you can see what the output looks like and some sample files. So we have HTML and text files. And we have a Postman collection that you can download and install yourself, and I'll show you the Postman in just a second. But I've put together a quick collection that you can easily get started, and this is for anyone of any age. I would say anybody above, like 6 or 7 years old. If they can use a basic Windows computer, they could probably start to do some of this thing. Now I have 3 Python files here that we'll get to and just show you the code. But those are the files. They're little scripts that run in Python, which is an object-oriented programming language that's free and open source. Now Python uses Jinja 2 templates, and this is where I use a lot of logic to rearrange those JavaScript objects into the format and structure that I'd like the data to be presented in. So I'm going to do this from scratch with the instructions that you can see here in this README file, and there's a few instructions, but it's pretty easy. First, you need to install Python for Windows, so you have a Python environment, and that's easy enough if you just do Python download, and you'll get to the Python page here, and you just download Python and install it and follow the instructions. One thing that you should make sure of when you're in your install instructions is that you install the path. So there'll be a little checkbox to include Python in your environment variable path. Make sure you don't miss that step. Otherwise, you will need Git if you want to clone my repository. And again, if you just go to Google and do Git download, it'll take you to the Git page, and you want to download Git and install Git for Windows, and make sure that Git is installed before the next tool that you're going to install, which is VS Code. So if you Google VS Code, it will take you to the VS Code download page right here, and you want to download and install VS Code. So in order, you can install Python, Git, and then VS Code, and then you'll have everything else you need. Now the next tool, the fourth tool, if you don't have it, is Postman. And I'll just show you. If you just do Postman download, and it will take you to try Postman for free. And you just click on the download button here on Postman, download the app, and then you can use Postman. So let's hop over to Postman. So welcome to Postman. Postman, as you can see, is sort of like a browser. It's browser-like, and we're going to do a lot of browser-like functions known as requests or HTTP requests. Now, you'll see here I have set up a collection, and Postman, typically, depending on the API, at work I have 30 or 40 collections because I use 30 or 40 different APIs. But here I just have the one collection with Pokemon, and you can just say new collection and then start your collection. And then in a collection I made 3 different folders, which is easy enough here to say add folder. And I picked the Pokemon, the moves, and the locations. Now I just want to show you quickly, this API requires no authentication or authorization. It's just an open API. So we don't have to worry about authenticating or any usernames or anything. And let's take a look. So I've made some requests here, and they're all GET with the green GET, which is safe. We're not going to be able to do any damage to the database or anything like that. And we can't do posts. We can only do gets because it's not our data and it's not our database. So we don't have permission to actually post information, but we can get lots of great information. I'm just going to take something out here real quick and start with the basic get HTTPS ://pokeapi.co/API/v2/Pokemon, and we hit send, and here it gives us back the JavaScript object notation in the body of the request. I got a 200 back, meaning it was okay, and it took 312 milliseconds, and I can actually see most of that time was doing the DNS lookup to find out what the IP address was on the internet for PokeAPI.co. Now to the actual data, this is what's known as a paginated response, meaning I have pages of data. The next page here is the link, and I could click on this and follow it and do another get, and I get the second set of data. Now this, you'll notice, has a previous page because I came from this page, and this one has no previous page because it's the first page. Now I don't want a bunch of pages, so what I can do is at the end I can add a question mark limit, which is the limit key you'll see here in Postman, and I can adjust the key here or adjust the key here, and I just picked 1200 to get all 1118 in one response. So I hit send, and what do you know? Look how long the list is now. It's all 1118 Pokemon, the name of every one of them, and then an individual page that I could follow to go get the details of any individual Pokemon. And you can see this kind of gives us a hint as to what my next get requests are going to be. I'm going to get the Pokemon details for, let's say, the 3 starter Pokemon, Charizard, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, and our good buddy Pikachu. So let's take a look at Pikachu's data set. Now, I want to show you in the margins here, it might be hard to see, but in the margin, you can collapse any higher level and make it, I like to do this to just evaluate what is the data set. I'm not too worried about the details at this point. I just want to get a general sense of the data I get. So we know that Pikachu has a base experience of 112. Pikachu is 4 in height and 60 in weight. And then we can break into, let's say, the abilities. So Pikachu has static and lightning rod abilities. One of them is hidden. One of them is not hidden. And what about Pikachu's moves? Pikachu has Mega Punch, and then all the different versions. Pikachu has Payday, Thunder Punch, bunch of different moves. Now let's see how much Charizard weighs compared to Pikachu. And now you can see it's kind of like a browser. I have different tabs with this data. So we know, if I go back up and collapse these moves, Pikachu weighed 60. How much does Charizard weigh? And again, we know it's at the bottom of the data set, so I can just collapse. I can't collapse the whole data set, but I can just collapse really quick here. And let's get to the weight. Is 905. So more than 100 times as much as a Pikachu weighs. Pretty neat stuff, right? And it's any piece of information you can imagine. So I have the moves here, all of the moves in the game, and there's over 843 different moves, from Pound to Comet Punch to Thunder Punch to Cut, you name it. So let's look at Razor Wind. Well, Razor Wind has 100% accuracy. You will never miss if you cast Razor Wind. Pretty neat to know that about Razor Wind, isn't it? Now we have the locations, and every location in the game, there's 787. Have you investigated and visited all of these places? So then let's take a look at Pallet Town, the starter town. And we have all of this information about Pallet Town. And we could actually look at the Pallet Town area in the areas here and get all of the information about Pallet Town, the area. And it's kind of like Wikipedia. You just keep clicking links and finding out more and more about Pokemon. So I can't show you in the GitHub, but on that original page earlier, I showed you the collections JSON file. You could download it from my GitHub and hit import here and upload the JSON file like this. And then you will have my collection in your Postman, and you can start playing around just like that. Now, I'm just getting started. Next thing I'm going to show you is my code in Visual Studio Code, and then we're going to run the code in Python and see what it looks like. And then we're going to come back to the browser to see our output. Stay tuned. Visual Studio Code. Editing evolved. I wouldn't even call VS Code an editor anymore. I would call it an integrated development environment. So you have a file explorer and you have extensions. And I have a few extensions in here installed. Better Jinja to help me write Jinja. And Open in Default Browser so I can open up web pages right from VS Code. And Python to help me write my Python code. But you can see I don't have anything open here. So there's a clone repository button here. I'm not going to click it this way. I'm going to show you how to do it the long way. You can click on the Manage Gear and then the Command Palette. And if you type in Git, you'll see a bunch of Git commands. A clone is the one we want to pick. Now I've already got this in my copy-paste buffer, but you can copy and paste the link to my GitHub repository with all of this code. So let's clone it. Now it prompts you where you want to save the location. I recommend you make a folder called repositories, maybe C temp repositories, or just C repositories. I have a little automate your network folder where I keep all my code, and I'm going to clone it in there. Okay, and it asks me if I want to open the repository. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to start with the README file. Now, I have to follow all these instructions, which we'll get to when I get to running the code in Python, but I'm going to show you the code for now and how it's all put together as a quick tour of Python, since the name of this video is called Python Pokemon Postman, something like that. So I have 3 different Python files, and I have 3 different Jinja 2 template files. So let's look at the simple one to get the entire list of Pokemon. And you can see that it's only 38 lines of code, and that's with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 lines, So 20 lines of code, literally 20 lines of code. So first I have to import some libraries into Python. And I need the JSON library because I'm working with JSON data, as we've seen already. And I need requests, which is like Python's version of Postman. It lets me interact with APIs. Now, because I want to use Jinja 2 templates, from Jinja 2, I'm going to import both environment and the file system loader. I'm going to specify my templates directory so Python knows to look in this templates folder to find my templates. And then I'm going to make an environment variable specifying the loader is the file system loader of that templates directory. Now don't worry if I've lost you there. I'm just trying to explain line by line how I've assembled the code and what each line of code is doing. So first I have to set up a template source. Now this I'm defining the variable all Pokemon template equals environment referenced up here dot get template, and I'm going to go get the all Pokemon template. So this little chunk of code here about the file system loader, it just lets me specify and load this J2 file and make it this variable. Now I have to talk to the RESTful API. So I'm going to register a variable called all Pokemon results. And in order to talk to the API, we use the requests library dot get method, just like in Postman. And then it's the all APIs, all Pokemon API with the limit of 1200. So then in theory, I should have this variable .json that then I can load into another variable. Now I'm going to template my results. So I take all of that, all Pokemon results JSON, and I use the results key and register that as results. That way I make this results in blue variable available to my Jinja 2 templates. I like to print it to the screen as part of the function, so I just use the simple print command and I print the output. And then with open, to open and write a file, the W, I want to write gotta catch 'em all .text and write the output that I've also printed to the screen, which is the Jinja 2 templated version of the JSON I get back through the get from this API and then everything above here is just set up. Okay, so now I'm not going to explore the other ones. I want to point out a couple of other little Python things that I've done and that I've learned along the way today. I'm basically doing the same thing in this up to this point, except I want a prompt. So as I was doing my development, I had /Charizard hard-coded. Now I wanted to try to learn how I could input data from text typed into the keyboard. So I register a new variable called Pokemon name, and using input method, this is what I want to appear on the screen. Please type in the name of the Pokemon, you are trying to catch. Now, this is not related to the prompt. I'm registering another variable, which is the URL string, which is the combination of the base API, and this 0 is just syntax that lets me say .format Pokemon name, meaning the name that has been typed in. And then I print this string on the screen just so that people can see the string that's being used. Now, I've added some if logic after we register and do our get. So I'm still doing my Postman get here, except I'm using the variable URL string that I've assembled here. Now I want to make sure, because I made a few mistakes typing in the name of the Pokemon. I missed the U with Pikachu, and my Python crashed with an error. So I've handled that, known as There's a few ways to think of this, either error handling, or I would even call it data validation. So I look back at the results, and if the results are okay, meaning I got a 200 status back from the API, then go ahead and register the JSON into a variable. Else, meaning if it's not 200, print on the screen, please check the name of your Pokemon. Make sure you use lowercase letters. Then I print the string so the user or you can see maybe your mistake, or if you missed a letter, or if you typed it in wrong. And then I quit the program so it doesn't crash. Outside of that error handling, everything else is the same, except, well, there is no except because this is the text file. Now, the last one is the same stuff with the same logic, except you're going to see here I'm writing to a .html file, meaning that a web browser should be able to open up a web page with the data. Okay, so that's all the Python. Now let's quickly take a look at the templates, and they're all very unique. So for the all Pokemon template, I just want a list of names printed to the screen and written to a text file. So I use a for loop and say for result in results. Again, I will show you the link here between the template. This results with the S is actually this results here, which is also blue, which is the result of that JSON data. So that's how I can programmatically link my template to my Python. And then it's just a simple matter of saying result dot and then the key, which is name in this case. And this results in that dump of the screen that looks like this. So this is the text file after the Python is run. Pretty neat, right? I'm not going to spoil anything else, but that's just a taste of the output that we can get. Now the other templates are a little different. The info template, I'm just making a text file, but I want it nice and spaced out and look nice and pretty on the screen. And there are some for loops. And you'll notice I put the end for nice and tight after the variable on the same line, so that I don't introduce unnecessary and unwanted white space on the screen. I have an if-else logic here in case the ability is either hidden, true or false. I have to handle it's hidden or it's not hidden. So that's the kind of thing that we use to assemble a Jinja template. Now the web page, I have to basically build the skeleton of a web page here, and you'll see I have a background image, and the background image is actually one of the JSON values. Can you believe that? The other thing is I'll point out I make a gallery of images from the sprites. So the in-game sprite image, I say image source equals this value from the key. So in theory, when I render the web page, I should have some images in the web page. So let's get to running the playbooks in Python and setting up our Python environment. Okay, so I have my command prompt open here, and I'm going to show you from start to finish how you can set up your Python environment so that way you can do this at home on your Windows computer. Now when you launch command prompt, it should take you to your users folder, and we don't want to be in that users folder when we build our Python environment. It can get a little messy that way, and it's going to be very hard for you to find it. So I have the instructions. I'm going to paste the GitHub. So if you go to this web page and go to the README file, or the main page, github.com/automateyournetwork/Python Postman Pokemon, you can kind of follow along here. But those are the instructions I'm using to follow along. So my first instructions say to do a cd backslash to go to the root of your computer. And now we have to make our Python environment. So do a python-m, and we do a venv for a virtual environment, and now we have to give it a name. Now this is going to make a folder in the root called Pokemon, and that is where our virtual environment is. So now if I do a dir, you should see a Pokemon folder, and it's right there. Now I have to activate that environment. So if I do a dot slash Pokemon scripts and then activate, you see how my prompt has changed here to have Pokemon in brackets? That means I'm inside of a Python virtual environment. Okay, now I'm going to change to that folder where my Python is. Actually, before I do that, let me follow the instructions. First, I have to pip install. So pip is a Python package install manager that manages Python packages. So I can say pip install requests because I need the request package installed, and pip install Jinja2 because I need the Jinja2 package installed. Now, if you're doing this at home, you'll see little progress bars that those two things have been installed. So now I have to change to my automate your network, repositories, Python Pokemon, Python Postman Pokemon. Should have named that something easier. And then I'm going to go to my Python folder to run my Python plays. So I do a dir, and I have 3 playbooks here, 3 Python files, I should say. And according to the instructions here, I just have to do Python get all Pokemon list, and there's my list on the screen. And it also creates and refreshes the text file. So if they add 10 new Pokemon tomorrow and you run this play, you'll have 10 new Pokemon in your text file. Now, I'm going to go to my output folder real quick and go to my text file, and let's see what animals I have. So I have Arbok, Bulbasaur, Charizard, Pikachu, and Squirtle. And let's go back to our other list. Let's get a simple name without a dash in it from our list. Let's pick, sure, Jirachi. So I'm just going to push up arrow. No, I got to go back into my other folder. So I go to my Python folder, and I'm going to run the other playbook, get Pokemon info. Now this one, I'll show you the error handling first. So I'm going to type in something wrong. This is not a Pokemon. And you can see that it just says, please check the name of your Pokemon. Make sure that you use lowercase letters, and you have it there twice to see that that's not correct. So let's paste in Jirachi. Now on the screen, I have all of Jirachi's stats on the screen. And there's, the base effects, the ID. This is a steel type and a psychic type. Ooh, that's a powerful Pokemon. Now, let's just make sure that in my output / text folder, I have, yeah, there's Jirachi. Now, I don't think cat works in Windows. No. Print. Geez, it's been a while since I've tried to print something, and I can't print it on DOS right now off the top of my head. Anyhow, we have all that information in a text file. Now, I'm going to run a couple other plays and get ready for my next demo, and then we'll look at the output together in just a second. So now I have this other really, really cool thing. If we go into the Python folder again, and instead of get, let's say create Pokemon website. So I've written Python that will create an HTML page based on all of that JSON information. And let's do it for Jirachi, because I haven't done Jirachi yet. So please type in the name of the Pokemon you're trying to catch, Jirachi, and nothing happens, meaning it worked and it was very fast. Now let's just make sure that we have our output while I'm here. Output text dir. I didn't do, no, I'm in the wrong folder. cd html, rather, excuse me. And we do dir, and there is a Jirachi HTML file. So I'll see you back in the browser in just a second. Okay, everybody, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate your time, and I hope this has been exciting and interesting. Now, when I say we can generate a web page for every one of our Pokemon, here's the Pokédex information about Charizard, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, the 3 starters. I have Pikachu, Arbok, and Jirachi that we just did together that I don't even know what it looks like. So let's take a look here. So here's Charizard's page. And we have a title bar here, Pokédex information about Charizard in a solid red outline, a dotted blue outline around the basic information, and then a basic information table with all the basic information. It's a fire and flying types, 17 height, 905 weight, base XP, default Pokemon, different forms. What's really neat is I can actually get the sprites images. Now, if there is no female or male version, you get the little broken image. I'll fix that later to make that pretty. Don't worry about that. But what's really neat is we get the front and back view in shiny and default views. Now, all the base stats, all the abilities, all the games they've appeared in. Their default image is the background image, and then all of the different attacks, and it just goes on and on and on. Every piece of data you could want. You can do searches and file finds in here. So that's Charizard. Let's take a look. So there's Bulbasaur with the little Bulbasaur images. Bulbasaur. And then we have Squirtle. And then we have Pikachu. And then we have Arbok. And let's see what Jirachi looks like. Cool. Really neat. Now I've done a bunch and none of them have failed. None of them have crashed. Every one of them has given me at least 4 images and at least the background image. So that's pretty neat. And so that's my little song and dance here on how you at home can start with the Pokemon, the PokeAPI, right? So we started here and I started with this submit button and I honestly started just playing here, Pikachu, and there's Pikachu's information, right? Then we move to Postman, and you can now download a Postman collection and start using it right away, real easily. And then from there, we can start writing Pythonic code. So I'm going to put the links to all of these resources in the description of this video. And again, you can always reach out to me on Twitter, John_Capobianco. You can find me on Reddit. You can find me on LinkedIn. You cannot find me on Facebook, but everywhere else you can find me, and I'm open to collaborate or to share or do demos or whatever you need from me. So let's reach out, let's share, and let's make the world a better place through Pokemon. Take care. Bye now.